The spaceport was always alive with noise. Engines hummed, traders argued over credits, and alien voices mixed in 1,000 different tones. To most travelers, it was chaos. To Elias, the human explorer, it was comfort. He had been drifting from station to station for months now, chasing the idea of adventure, but finding mostly empty hallways and indifferent faces. He was leaning against a metal railing, sipping a recycled drink that tasted faintly like mint, when he noticed her. At first, she was just another figure in the crowd, slender, wrapped in a hooded cloak, moving quickly to avoid attention. But there was something in her posture, a tension, as if the entire station pressed down on her shoulders. People stepped away when she passed. Some whispered. A few glared with open hostility. Curiosity stirred in Elias. He had seen plenty of species, but none who caused such instant unease just by walking into a room. When she pulled back her hood, he understood. Her skin carried a faint violet hue, glowing subtly under the artificial lights. Her eyes, bright silver, seemed too sharp, too intense, as if they could pierce straight through a person. Her lips were tinted darker, almost black, and though she moved gracefully, there was a heaviness in her expression, a quiet sadness that clung to her like a shadow. The alien girl sat down at an empty table in the corner of the canteen. The seats around her remained vacant. No one dared approach. Elias frowned. He wasn't used to this kind of silence. Most aliens were curious about humans, sometimes friendly, sometimes not, but they never ignored him. This girl wasn't being ignored, she was being avoided. Against all logic, he felt himself walking toward her. "Mind if I sit?" Elias asked, stopping at her table. Her head snapped up. For a moment, her silver eyes widened in disbelief. Then she narrowed them, voice low and guarded. "You don't know what I am?" Elias shrugged. "Should I?" She gave a bitter laugh, short and sharp. "Everyone here knows. That's why they stay away." There was a silence between them. The hum of the station seemed louder. Elias tilted his head, studying her. "Then maybe I'm not everyone here." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Humans," she muttered, almost to herself. "Always so reckless." Elias grinned, sliding into the seat across from her. "Reckless? Maybe. But also curious." She stared at him, as if waiting for fear to finally flicker in his eyes. It never came. Instead, Elias leaned on the table, speaking gently. "You look like you've been alone a long time." The word struck her harder than he expected. For a second, her composure cracked. She looked down, hiding her face. "Alone is safer, for everyone." Elias felt something tighten in his chest. He didn't know why this stranger mattered to him, but she did. He wanted to know her story. He wanted to see what lay beyond those silver eyes. "What's your name?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "Sira." "Nice to meet you, Sira. I'm Elias." Her gaze flickered up, cautious but curious now. "You really don't know what I am?" "No," Elias said simply. "Should I be afraid?" Sira studied him for a long moment, then leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "One bite from me can kill. Any species. Instantly. That's what I am." The words hung between them like a blade. Any other alien would have recoiled, but Elias just nodded slowly, his expression steady. "Sounds lonely," he said. Sira blinked. No shock, no fear, just understanding. For the first time in years, someone hadn't flinched at her truth. She turned her head slightly, as if trying to hide the tremble in her lips. "You don't believe me." "Oh, I believe you. I just don't think that's all there is to you." The canteen around them carried on, voices rising, machines beeping. But for Sira, the world had gone quiet. She looked at the human across from her, this reckless traveler who smiled as if death weren't sitting at his table. and something inside her shifted. She should have told him to leave. She should have reminded him that she was dangerous. But instead, for the first time in her life, she wanted someone to stay. And Elias, stubborn as ever, was not planning to leave.
The next day, Elias found himself wandering the market sector of the station, pretending to browse stalls filled with shimmering crystals, alien fruit, and second-hand star maps. In truth, his eyes kept drifting, searching for her. He didn't know why. Something about the girl, Sira, had pulled him in. Her warning should have scared him off. Instead, it made him want to understand her more. And then he saw her. Sira was standing at the edge of a vendor's stall, her hood pulled low, arguing softly with the shopkeeper. The man, scaled with 3 blinking eyes, snapped at her, waving his hands in refusal. "Not to you! Leave!" The rejection hit her hard. She stepped back, shoulders stiff, lips pressed tight to hold back anger or hurt. Before she could disappear into the crowd, Elias stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" The shopkeeper turned, irritation flashing across his scaled face. "She knows what she is. Dangerous. I won't have her near my stall." Elias folded his arms, his voice calm but firm. "Funny. I don't feel in danger." He picked up one of the fruits she had been reaching for, tossed a few credits onto the counter, and handed it to her. The shopkeeper grumbled but accepted the payment, muttering under his breath. Elias ignored him. "Here," Elias said, offering the fruit. Sira hesitated, silver eyes flicking between him and the glowing fruit in his palm. Slowly, she accepted it. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because no one deserves to be treated like that. And because maybe I wanted an excuse to see you again." The words caught her off guard. She blinked, as though no one had ever spoken them to her before. They walked together through the quieter halls of the station. Sira nibbled the fruit, careful and slow, while Elias talked about the places he'd traveled, the odd foods he'd tried, the stars he wanted to see. At first, she answered with short phrases, almost wary of giving too much away. But gradually, his easy smile and unshaken calmness drew her out. She told him about her world, how her people lived in isolation, how they were feared across the galaxy, not for war or conquest, but for the venom in their bite. "We didn't choose it," she said quietly. "We're born with it. A single mistake, a single moment of anger or fear, and someone dies." He listened, not interrupting, not judging. When she finally fell silent, he said, "So you carry the weight of every moment, every word, every breath. That sounds exhausting." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken of it that way. Most just called her kind monsters. "Do you ever wish," he continued, "that you could just live without fear?" She looked at him, silver eyes glistening. "Every day." A silence lingered between them, soft and heavy. And then Elias smiled again, gentle and sure. "Maybe you can. At least with me." Her heart skipped at the words. Foolish, dangerous, reckless. Yet they lit something inside her, a fragile hope she thought had long died. That night, in the station's observation dome, Elias found her again. The dome's wide glass revealed the stars in their endless ocean. Sira stood alone, staring at them as if searching for freedom in their distant glow. "You come here often?" Elias asked, stepping beside her. Sira didn't turn. "It's the only place I feel small enough to forget myself." Elias looked at her, not the stars. "Funny. Standing here with you, I feel the opposite." She glanced at him then, startled by his honesty. His eyes were steady, his tone quiet, but true. Something inside her softened, though fear still coiled around it. She whispered, "Don't you understand? I can't touch anyone. If I slip, if I lose control even once—" Elias extended his hand towards her, palm open. "Then I'll take that risk." Her breath caught. For a long, trembling moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, carefully, she reached out. Their fingers brushed, just a light touch, fleeting, fragile, yet it sent a surge of warmth through her chest. Elias didn't flinch, didn't pull away. Instead, he smiled. "See? Not so dangerous." Sira's heart ached. No one had ever dared come this close. No one had ever given her this much trust. It terrified her. It thrilled her. And as they stood together beneath the endless stars, she realized something she had never believed possible. For the first time in her life, she wasn't alone.
The station at night was quieter. Most of the traders had closed their stalls, the bustling corridors now echoing with only the distant hum of engines and the footsteps of security patrols. It was in these hidden hours that Elias found himself drawn back toward the restricted sector. He knew he shouldn't be there. The signs were clear, authorized species only, and yet his feet carried him forward, not because of curiosity anymore, but because of her, Sira. She was the reason he slipped past the warning barriers, heart steady but alert. Her people were strict. He had learned that much in their whispered conversations. They forbade mingling with outsiders, forbade friendships, and certainly forbade anything resembling affection. For them, survival meant distance, rules, silence. But Elias had never been one to follow rules, especially not when they meant abandoning someone who clearly longed for more. He found her in a quiet courtyard near the habitat rings. The air was different here, filled with faint floral scents from imported plant life. Sira stood beneath one of the bioluminescent trees, her silver eyes catching the light, her cloak wrapped tightly round her frame. When she saw him, shock flashed across her face. "Elias? What are you doing here? If they catch you—" "Then they'll throw me out," he said with a small grin. "But I thought it was worth the risk." Her brow furrowed, her expression torn between fear and something softer. "You shouldn't be here." "Maybe not," Elias admitted, stepping closer. "But I wanted to see you, to know you beyond the pieces you've given me." For a long moment, she said nothing. The glow of the trees cast shifting shadows across her face, revealing the conflict written there. Finally, she whispered, "I don't understand how dangerous this is. For me. For you." Elias's voice lowered, steady and calm. "Then help me understand." She turned away, her cloak shifting as she wrapped her arms around herself. "I have lived my whole life behind walls. Every moment measured, every word weighed. My people treat me as though I carry death in my veins, because I do. One mistake, one slip, that's all it takes." Elias walked closer, closing the space between them until he was just a step away. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Then trust me enough not to slip." Her breath caught. He was too close, too unafraid. Every instinct told her to push him away, to protect him from what she was. And yet, she didn't move. Instead, she asked in a trembling voice, "Why? Why do you keep coming back? Why don't you fear me like the others?" "Because I don't see a monster. I see someone who's been told she can never be touched, never be loved, never be seen for who she really is. And that's not fair. You deserve more than that, Sira." The words hit her harder than she expected. Her throat tightened, tears threatening at the edges of her vision. She had fought so long to hide her longing for connection, to bury it beneath rules and duty. And yet this reckless human, this stranger, spoke as if he had looked straight into her soul. Elias extended his hand, palm open, steady. "Sira,
Will you trust me?" Her fingers trembled as she stared at it. Memories surged, warnings drilled into her since childhood, the fear of ending a life with a single bite, the knowledge that intimacy was forbidden. Her people would exile her if they knew. And yet, her heart ached. Slowly, as though fighting every instinct, she lifted her hand. Their fingers met. The touch was feather-light, hesitant, fragile. Her skin tingled where it brushed his, her breath hitching as if she were standing on the edge of a cliff. But Elias didn't flinch. He held her hand with gentle certainty, as if it were the most natural thing in the galaxy. "So you see," he said softly, "not everything has to end in fear." Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, her eyes glistened with something she hadn't felt in years: hope. For a long, quiet moment, they stayed like that, two souls daring what the universe insisted was impossible. But the moment shattered with the sudden echo of footsteps. Sira pulled back instantly, fear flashing across her face. "Go," she whispered harshly, "if they find you here." "I'll go," Elias said steadily despite the urgency. "But I'll come back. I promise." She stared at him, torn between fear and longing, her lips trembling with words she couldn't bring herself to say. Finally, she whispered, "Then hurry." He slipped away into the shadows just as two of her people rounded the corner, their eyes sharp, their movements rigid. Sira straightened, cloak pulled tightly, her heart still racing from the brush of his hand. As they passed her without suspicion, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her mind should have been filled with warnings, with guilt, with the weight of breaking every rule she had lived by. But instead, one thought consumed her, stubborn and relentless. For the first time in her life, she wanted more, and she feared that she was already too far gone to turn back.
The alarms began without warning. A shrill pulse tore through the spaceport, echoing down the metal corridors. Red lights flared to life, painting the station in frantic color. Elias was in the market sector when it started, watching merchants scramble to close stalls and travelers rush toward shelter zones. Then came the voice of the station AI, cold and clipped. "Warning, hostile boarding detected. All civilians evacuate to designated shelters immediately." Pirates. Elias didn't think. His first thought wasn't of himself, it was of her, Sira. He pushed against the tide of panicked aliens, heading not toward safety, but toward the restricted sector. His boots pounded against the floor as shouts echoed, doors sealed, and blaster fire rattled in the distance. He found her in the courtyard where they had last met, cloak drawn tight, silver eyes sharp with fear. She had already heard the alarms. She was moving quickly, but not toward the shelters. "Sira!" Elias shouted. She froze at the sound of his voice, her head snapping toward him. Relief flashed across her face, followed quickly by anger. "What are you doing here? You should be hiding." "Not without you," Elias said firmly. Before she could answer, a group of pirates stormed into the courtyard. Their armor was patched and ugly, their weapons aimed with cruel precision. The leader, a scarred reptilian brute, sneered when his gaze landed on Sira. "Well, look what we have here, a rare little toxin bearer." He dripped with greed. "You'll fetch a fine price, alive if possible." Sira's blood ran cold. She stepped back, shaking her head. "Stay away from me." But the pirates only laughed, advancing. Elias moved without hesitation, placing himself between Sira and the intruders. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me," he growled. The pirates laughed harder. One of them shoved him aside with the butt of a rifle, sending Elias stumbling. He hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of him. And in that instant, one of the pirates lunged at Sira. Fear overtook her. Instinct took control. Her fangs flashed.
She bit down. The pirate screamed, an awful gurgling sound before collapsing in seconds, eyes wide with terror as his body went limp. His comrades froze in horror. The courtyard went silent. Elias, pushing himself back to his feet, had seen everything. He hadn't just heard the stories now. He had witnessed it, the truth of her venom, the curse she carried. Sira stumbled back from the body, her hands trembling. She looked at Elias, terror and shame etched across her face. I didn't mean to. But Elias didn't recoil. His eyes were steady, his voice calm despite the chaos. You defended yourself. You didn't choose this. The pirates broke from their shock, snarling with rage. Kill them both, the leader barked. Blaster fire erupted. Elias grabbed Sira's hand. Run! They bolted into the winding corridors, their footsteps echoing as shots sizzled against the walls. Sira's hood flew back as they ran, her violet skin glowing under the alarms. Anyone who saw them stared in fear, at her, at what she had done. Her breath came in ragged bursts, her chest tight with panic. You saw what I am, she gasped as they ducked into a maintenance shaft. Elias pressed a hand to her shoulder, pulling her close so the pirates' shouts wouldn't carry over their voices. His eyes met hers, unwavering. You saw someone protecting herself. That doesn't change who you are. Tears stung her silver eyes. It should. It always does. Not with me, Elias whispered. For a heartbeat, the chaos around them faded. The alarms, the shouts, the thunder of boots, they all dimmed as she looked into his eyes. And in that fragile silence, Sira realized something terrifying and beautiful. Elias wasn't afraid of her. Even after seeing what her bite could do, he still reached for her hand. But the pirates' voices were drawing closer. The spell broke. Elias tightened his grip on her fingers. Come on, we're not safe yet. Together, they ran deeper into the station, the glow of red alarms chasing them into the shadows. Behind them, the pirates howled for blood. Ahead of them, the unknown stretched like a dark and endless road. And between them, just a spark of trust, fragile and bright, carrying them forward. The chase had driven them deep into the underbelly of the station. The shining markets and polished walkways were far above now, replaced with narrow maintenance tunnels that smelled of rust and burning wires. Elias and Sira ran until their lungs burned. The alarms still echoed faintly, but here the noise was muffled, distant. For a moment, silence wrapped around them, heavy and suffocating. Sira leaned against the wall, trembling, her silver eyes wide. Elias bent forward, catching his breath, his chest heaving. They won't stop, Sira whispered, her voice breaking. You don't understand. Pirates never let prey slip away. They'll hunt us until... A heavy crash echoed from behind them. Metal groaned. Boots thundered closer. Until now. The pirates had found them again. Elias grabbed her hand, pulling her onward. They sprinted through the dark passage, but the corridor ended in a sealed bulkhead. The door was locked, red lights blinking defiantly. They were trapped. The pirates' shadows filled the corridor. Their leader, scarred and reptilian, stepped forward with a cruel smile. End of the line. His rifle leveled at Elias. Kill the human. Take the girl alive. Sira's heart stopped. Elias moved instinctively, placing himself between her and the blaster. Over my dead body. The pirate sneered. That can be arranged. The shot came fast. Elias cried out, dropping to his knees as the blast tore across his side. Pain lanced through him, hot and searing, but he forced himself to stay upright. No! Sira screamed, catching him as he swayed. Blood stained his shirt, dark against pale skin. The pirates advanced, laughing. Something inside Sira broke. Terror, grief, fury, they all erupted at once. She shoved Elias behind her and lunged at the nearest pirate. Her fangs sank deep into his neck. He died instantly, collapsing with a strangled cry. The others faltered, fear flashing across their faces. But the leader roared, raising his weapon. "Enough of this! Kill them both!" He slammed the butt of his rifle into her, knocking her to the floor. Sira gasped, dazed. Another pirate pinned her arms, and then, in the chaos, Elias staggered forward, trying to fight despite his wound. "No!" Sira screamed. The leader struck him again, and Elias collapsed against her. In that desperate moment, as she tried to shield him with her body, her fangs grazed his skin. It happened too fast to stop. Her venom flowed. Her world shattered. "Elias!" she cried, catching him as his body went limp. His head lolled against her shoulder, his breathing shallow. Her silver eyes filled with tears as she cradled him, shaking. "No, no, no, I didn't mean to. I didn't—" She cracked with anguish. She pressed her forehead to his, sobbing. "Please don't leave me. Not like this. Not because of me." The pirates stepped back, shocked. They had seen what her bite did. Swift, merciless death. The human should have already been gone. But Elias was still breathing. His chest rose and fell, faint but steady. Sira blinked, stunned. Her tears froze on her cheeks. "What?" The leader snarled, unnerved by the sight. "Impossible!" And in that heartbeat of hesitation, fear spread among the pirates. Whispers rippled. "Why isn't he dead? It should have killed him!" Sira clutched Elias tighter, torn between despair and a fragile spark of hope. She could feel it. Life still pulsed within him. Weak, but unbroken. Elias stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Pain lined his face, but when he saw her, a faint smile touched his lips. "Told you, you could never hurt me," he rasped, voice barely audible. Her breath caught. The words struck deep, shattering the chains of her fear. The pilots recoiled, as though seeing a ghost. Their leader's sneer faltered, rage warring with confusion. "Fall back, we'll regroup." And just like that, they retreated into the shadows, unwilling to face what they didn't understand. Sira barely noticed. All her focus was on Elias, on the impossible truth in her arms. Her venom hadn't killed him. Her curse hadn't touched him. He was still alive. Tears streamed down her face, falling on his blood-stained shirt. "You're still here," she whispered, voice trembling with awe. "You survived me." Elias gave a weak chuckle, coughing from the effort. "Guess humans are stubborn like that." She pressed her forehead against his again, eyes closing as relief crashed over her in waves. For the first time in her life, she held someone she loved, and they were not broken by her touch. In that moment, amidst the blood, the fear, and the chaos, something inside her awakened. Not just hope, love. Raw, terrifying, undeniable love. And she knew, no matter what came next, she would never let him go. For a long, breathless moment, Sira simply held him, waiting for the stillness that always came, waiting for the silence. She had lived her whole life knowing what her venom meant. One bite, one heartbeat. Death. But Elias's chest rose again, then again. His skin burned hot where her fangs had grazed him, but it wasn't the waxen chill of the dying. His pulse, weak, trembling, still thudded beneath her fingertips. Her silver eyes widened, disbelief etched across her face. You're still alive." Elias forced his eyes open. Pain shadowed his features, but when he looked at her, there was no fear, only that maddeningly stubborn smile. "Guess I'm harder to kill than most." Her hands trembled as she cupped his face, her tears falling freely now. "It's not possible. No one survives me. No one." "Maybe I'm not no one," Elias whispered. His voice cracked, but his gaze was steady. "Maybe I'm exactly the one who can." Behind them, the pirates faltered. They had seen Syrah's bite before, had seen what it did, how swiftly and certainly it ended life. Yet here was a human, bitten and breathing. Whispers rippled through their ranks. "He should be dead. It doesn't make sense. What is he?" Fear bled into their eyes, replacing greed. The leader barked for them to advance, but no one moved. The sight before them was too unnatural, too wrong. A human surviving the venom? It defied everything they knew. The leader cursed, snarling. "Fall back. We'll regroup." Reluctantly, the pirates retreated, vanishing into the shadows of the tunnels. Their footsteps echoed away, leaving only silence and the faint crackle of damaged wiring. Syrah hardly noticed them go. Her world had shrunk to Elias's labored breaths and the impossible truth beneath her hands. She pressed her forehead to his, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. I've spent my whole life being feared, being told I could never touch anyone, never be close. And now you're here, alive, after I... Her voice cracked. "I thought I'd lost you." Elias lifted a trembling hand, brushing his fingers against her cheek. His touch was gentle, even in weakness. "You'll never lose me. Not like that." Her tears fell faster. For the first time in years, they weren't only tears of grief, but of relief. Hope. Love. She kissed his forehead, lips lingering as she whispered, "You're not supposed to exist." Elias chuckled weakly. Humans tend to break rules. She laughed through her tears, the sound fragile but real. Her arms tightened around him, holding him as though the universe might steal him away if she let go. But reality returned with a weight. He was wounded, badly. The blaster burns seared across his ribs, blood soaking his shirt. Her venom hadn't killed him, but the pirate's weapons still could. "We need to get you out of here," she said, determination hardening her voice. "You need medical care." Elias shook his head, grimacing. "The pirates, they'll regroup. You can't risk yourself from me." Her silver eyes blazed with defiance. "Don't you dare tell me not to risk myself. You're the only one who ever looked at me without fear, the only one who ever touched me. I won't let you go now. Not when I finally found you." The words were fierce, trembling, utterly sincere. Elias looked at her for a long moment, and despite the pain, his smile softened. "You sound a little human right now." She let out a breathless laugh, shaking her head. "Or maybe you sound a little like me." Together, they staggered forward through the maintenance tunnels. Syrah supported most of his weight, her arm around his waist, his arm draped over her shoulders. Every step was heavy, every corridor uncertain, but Elias's survival had given her strength she hadn't known she possessed. As they moved, the station whispered with rumors. Word spread quickly. A human had survived a venom-bearer's bite. Aliens glanced at them as they passed, some in fear, some in awe. Doors opened, whispers chased them. Impossible. Humans, what are they? By the time they reached a hidden service hatch, Sira understood the truth. The galaxy would never look at Elias or her the same way again. But in that moment, she didn't care. All that mattered was that he was alive, that for the first time, she wasn't cursed. For the first time, she wasn't alone. As she helped him into the shadows of safety, Elias whispered, his voice faint but full of conviction. "See, I told you, you could never hurt me." She pressed her lips to his temple, her tears falling into his hair. And this time, she believed it.
The service hatch led them into a forgotten section of the station, a maintenance bay long abandoned, its walls rusted, its lights dim. Here, at least, the chaos felt distant. The alarms had faded, the footsteps of pirates gone. Sira lowered Elias carefully onto a discarded supply crate. He winced as he sat, his wound burning, but he didn't let go of her hand. Even now, even in pain, he held her as if she anchored him to life itself. She pressed a cloth from her cloak against his side, trying to stop the bleeding. "You need a medic. Real equipment. I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't lose you." Elias gritted his teeth but managed a crooked smile. "You're not gonna lose me. Not after all this." Her silver eyes shimmered. She shook her head, overwhelmed. "Do you understand what happened back there? I bit you, Elias. I bit you. I've killed before, by accident, by instinct. Everyone dies. Everyone. But you—" Her hand trembled against his chest, feeling the faint but steady rhythm of his heart. "You lived." Elias placed his hand over hers, steadying it. "And that changes everything, doesn't it?" She blinked at him, her throat tight. "It changes me. My whole life I believed I was a curse, that I would always be untouchable, unloved, unwanted. But now—" She swallowed hard. "Now, for the first time, I think, maybe I'm not doomed to be alone." Her words hit him harder than the blaster wound. Elias's smile softened, his voice gentle. "Sira, you were never doomed. You just needed someone stubborn enough to stay." Her lips parted, her breath catching. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had dared. Slowly, cautiously, she lifted her hand to his face, brushing her fingers along his jaw. The gesture was hesitant, as if she still expected him to flinch away. But Elias leaned into her touch, eyes closing briefly. "You see? Not poison, not death. Just you." Tears filled her eyes. She had been told her whole life that her touch was dangerous, that her love could never exist, and yet here was this reckless, fragile human proving the universe wrong with every heartbeat. "I don't understand you. You should be afraid of me. You should hate me." Elias opened his eyes, meeting her gaze with quiet conviction. "Maybe I should, but I don't. I can't." He squeezed her hand. "Because somewhere between the first time I saw you and right now, you became the reason I don't feel lost anymore." Her heart clenched. The walls she had built her entire life cracked and crumbled.
She had never believed she could hear words like that. She had never believed she could deserve them. And yet, she wanted to believe. Leaning closer, her voice trembled. "Elias, what if I can't protect you? What if the pirates come back? What if my people find out?" "Then we face it," Elias said simply. "Together." The word together broke her. A sob slipped from her lips, half despair, half joy. She pressed her forehead to his, her tears falling freely now. "I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you." "You won't," he whispered back. His hand slid into her hair, holding her close despite the pain in his side. "Not unless you want to." For a long, quiet moment, they stayed like that. Two broken souls clinging to the impossible truth between them. The hum of the station filled the silence, distant and impersonal, but here, in the forgotten bay, time seemed to pause. Finally, Sarah pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. There was fear still, but also something new, something fierce. "I've spent my whole life running from who I am," she said softly. "But if you can survive me, if you can love me even after what I've done, then maybe I can stop running." His answer was simple. "Then stop. Stay. With me." The words lingered, heavy with promise. Syrah's lips trembled, her eyes glistening, and then, slowly, hesitantly, she leaned in and kissed him. It was not the kiss of passion, but of revelation. Soft, trembling, fragile, the kiss of someone who had never believed she would be allowed to feel love, tasting it for the first time. Elias kissed her back, gentle and unhurried, as though telling her she was safe now, safe with him. When they parted, her silver eyes glowed with something brighter than fear, hope. Outside, the station still reeled with chaos. Pirates lingered in the shadows, her people still patrolled with rigid laws, and danger pressed in from all sides. But here, in this hidden corner, none of that mattered.
The station never truly slept. Even in its quietest hours, metal groaned, engines hummed, and shadows shifted with life. But in the hidden maintenance bay, time moved differently. Elias stirred awake on the crate, his wound bandaged with strips of Syrah's cloak. His body still ached, but the burning pain had eased, replaced with something steady and grounding. The first thing he saw when his eyes opened was Syrah, sitting beside him, watching him as though he might vanish if she looked away. "You're still here," she whispered, relief softening her features. Elias smiled faintly. "Where else would I be?" She shook her head, as if the question itself was absurd. "Anywhere, nowhere, dead." Her silver eyes glistened. "And yet you're alive. Because of you, Elias, I finally believe I don't have to be a curse." He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "You were never a curse, Syrah. You were just waiting for someone stubborn enough to prove it." Her lips trembled, caught between laughter and tears. For a long moment, she simply stared at him, memorizing the curve of his smile, the warmth in his eyes. Then she leaned against him gently, resting her head on his shoulder. They sat in silence, two survivors bound by something neither fully understood, but both were unwilling to lose. But the world beyond the bay had not forgotten them. The pirates still prowled the station's underbelly, shaken but not defeated. Whispers of the impossible, of a human surviving venom, spread faster than fire through dry grass. Already, merchants, mercenaries, and soldiers repeated the tale in hushed tones. The Venom Girl found someone she couldn't kill,
a human who walked away from death. Rumors became fascination, fascination became fear, and fear always bred danger. She knew it. She could feel the weight of it pressing on her. The galaxy was vast, but secrets never stayed hidden for long. "They'll come for us," she said quietly. "The pirates, the enforcers, maybe even my own people. Everyone will want to know why you survived me." Elias tilted his head toward her, lips curving into a stubborn grin. "Let them come. We'll keep walking away." She stared at him, incredulous, then laughed softly, a sound so rare it startled her. "You sound like a fool." "Maybe," Elias said, squeezing her hand, "but I'm your fool now." Her laughter faded into something tender. "And I am yours." She first allowed herself to say it, allowed herself to believe it. They rose together, supporting each other, moving toward the hatch that led to the stars beyond the station. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers and questions without answers. But as they stepped forward, there was no fear in their steps, because they were no longer alone. Sierra glanced at Elias, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You know this is only the beginning, right?" She met her gaze, her smile steady. "Good. I've always liked beginnings." Hand in hand, they disappeared into the labyrinth of corridors, two figures carrying a secret that would one day shake the galaxy. But for now, all that mattered was this: a girl who believed she was cursed, a man who refused to let her believe it, and a love born from the impossible. The venom promised death, but instead it gave them life. Together.